Welcome everyone. We're back to, I think this is week 4 now, episode 4. Super excited. This is actually my first time running the Y Story interview today. And look, I'm kind of excited because the person I'm interviewing, she has a bit of a name in the yLead community. I feel like a lot of people would have heard of her name, but not necessarily met her in person. I would like to introduce the wonderful Georgia Nugara today to our Y Story.
So I am Georgia from Melbourne. I went to a little known school called Ave Maria College in Essendon, and I graduated in 2012. So I met yLead at the Melbourne ASLC at the beginning of 2012, and I guess my journey even to get there was a little bit of a different one. In the sense that I was never really, I guess, what you thought of as a typical leader. And I guess it came as a bit of a surprise when I put my hand up as college captain. During school, I was never a bad or a naughty student, but I definitely loved to have a laugh and couldn't sort of restrain myself when something funny would happen and I'd just kind of pipe up in class. So I guess teachers might not know how to handle that and might not really know, that it was all in good fun, in my opinion. And so, when I kind of built this reputation as a bit of a class clown and wasn't taking things too seriously, but always had best intentions. I have these passions and I have these values that really align with leadership, but I guess that they're a little bit different to the way that people usually see leaders. The past college captains were kind of, the students that had never had a detention or always wore the right uniform, had their things in on time. And I was a kid in sports uniform when the entire year level was wearing their regular one, and it came as a bit of a shock. And so for me, kind of going into the yLead conference, I didn't really know what to expect, and to be honest, I felt a little bit out of place, and I think that I dealt with that instead of becoming shy or anything like that. I guess I dealt with it by acting a little bit too cool. Me putting up a facade and bravado because I felt out of depth, and I thought, oh my goodness, all these people are doing incredible things, and why am I here? What am I doing here? Maybe I shouldn't be a leader. Maybe they were right. And so the real me night to me is, obviously it's a really special night, but for me it's particularly important because it was that moment in time where things really clicked, and I stopped and I realised that acting too cool and not engaging in things so that I wouldn't fail at them, and I wouldn't be discovered someone that wasn't going to belong. I had no time for that, and I needed to be who I really was and not be afraid to try. yLead to me, because of that moment in time, the impact that specific night had on my life, up until now is just immeasurable. And so since then, that started 2012, which is nuts. Went over to New Zealand for Rangatira. I've met up with the guys on Thriller just to say hello one year. I've been up to Gold Coast and Sydney and Brisbane, over to Tanzania with them. It's been a wild journey. It's been really cool.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Puppy, old man.
I definitely wasn't going to say puppy and old man. What is the most favourite thing that you like to do where you live?
I'm actually really lucky. So I grew up in the northern part of Melbourne, so right near the airport, and it was, a fairly low SES sort of area. It was it was an interesting suburb to grow up in, and because of that, I've had a very sort of unique experience living there. And since then, I've moved out to sort of the other side of the city for uni, and this is the southeast of Melbourne's known as sort of the posher part of it. So I'm very lucky to live where I live at the moment, and it's really close to the beach. So I think that my favourite part of where I live now, and I sort of appreciate it even more considering sort of where I've come from, is the beaches and the parks nearby. Heading down to the dog beach or to the dog park and just sort of accidentally patting all the dogs that are there. It's a little bit strange now because it's frowned upon even more so than it usually is. because people definitely want you to keep your distance. But dogs are just the best. That's probably the best part about where I live.
Yeah, right. So safe to say you're not going to be the crazy cat lady. You're going to be the crazy dog lady. What is your spirit animal?
So my spirit animal is the wolf. And it's for a multitude of reasons. One of them is because obviously, wolves and dogs are quite similar, and I think that I do have the personality of a dog, but there's a fierceness to it. I love my family so much, whether it's my blood family or my chosen family. I love them and incredibly loyal to them. Each person doing their own sort of job that allows you to come together and achieve more together. But also, I found out that the country Georgia, their national animal is also the wolf. And so when I found that out, I just kind of lost it a little bit, and I was like, yes, it was meant to be.
If you could have dinner with any person, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
My pop passed away before I was born, and my nan had a really difficult life, so it made it really difficult to communicate with her and get to know her. And the more I've grown up, the more I hear these little stories about whether it's my nana or my great nan, and I realise I've come from a long line of badass women. So my great nana, so think about how far back that is, it's not my mum, it's not my nana, it's my great nana, actually got a divorce. So I'm like, oh my goodness, that would have been, such a huge decision to make and such a massive action to take. My nana then grew up in a convent, met my pop, and he broke her out of the convent, and they moved from Sri Lanka to Australia. And then there's my, biznonna and nonnal, which means great grandma and great grandpa, and they've got their stories that are just incredible as well. So to me, it would be able to sit down with the people that I guess have come before me and find out, they were just ordinary people, but find out a little bit more about them as humans rather than grandparents or great grandparents, and understand sort of where I've come from and where I sit in between all of that sort of stuff.
The older I get, the more my grandparents tell stories. But like the unfortunate part is the older I get, the older they get, the less they remember. But like some of the stories they have, they're incredible. Like they went through so much. Get a bit of an understanding of what they went through and how they grew up. If you could present a TED Talk, what would your topic be?
It'd have to be about the brilliance of the human body. Like I'm obsessed with the body and the mind and all the ways that we can use it and change it and train it and adapt to it. Like the human body, I say this, I reckon it's probably like is my motto. It's an adaptation machine. Whatever you give it, that's what it will work towards. And that's what I love about exercise is, if you're not good at something, you just keep on doing it, and the adaptation is you get better at it. Like it's science, which I love, and something that I'm really passionate about is the power of language and how what we tell ourselves, what we ask ourselves, questions, literally shape what we see and what we notice. So the TED Talk would just be about the brilliance of the human body, the brilliance of the human mind, and all the things that we can do with it. Because we're in control. It's not a scientific expert out in the lab that knows all these things. We can know these things, and we can actually implement them to change it.
Leading into this next question, it'll be, I feel like it's going to really tie in. What's a skill you have that you feel you could teach others?
Yeah, at the moment, I work as a personal trainer. I'm starting to be a physio, and that's just governed by the fact that, as I said, I think the human body and the human mind's brilliant. And for me, it couldn't be less about the aesthetics of health. Like, being lean and ripped is just a byproduct of being healthy and feeling fantastic about yourself. Movement and taking care of your body and your mind, for me, goes way beyond the physicality of it. And I absolutely love sharing my passion and my knowledge. And as I said before, I'm really passionate about teaching people those things, allow them to take ownership of their body and their mind, and say, hang on, I don't have to be X to be healthy. I can recreate what that means to me, and then I can work towards it because I have the knowledge to be able to do that.
At yLead, we have 5 colours of leadership. Red for passion, green for growth, white for integrity, blue for vision, and yellow for service. Which one of those colours resonates with you right now, and why?
The colour that resonates with me now is one that probably hasn't had to be important. It's always been important, but it's never had a big role in my life, and it's integrity. Because I think at the moment, there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of decisions that people have to make, and for myself at the moment, where the right decision isn't necessarily the easy one. And over the last 6 months, with everything that's happened, there's been a lot of situations that I've been in where integrity has been called into it, and I've had to stop and look at a situation and say, all right, well, what actually are my values, and how would it look? What would the decision look like if I'm living out my values? So not necessarily what I want to do in the situation or what's easy to do, but where do my values take me? Even when it wasn't easy, I was able to kind of go, nah, I've already made a decision that this is important to me, so I'm going to stick by it.
We come to this every week. It's the Fast 5. So Georgia, buckle yourself into that couch. Beach or
Let's
fly?
go. Beach.
Savoury or sweet?
Savoury. It hurts me to say that. Savoury. Savoury, yep.
Stan or Netflix?
Stan at the moment. Yeah.
Trip or plane trip?
Road trip.
Early riser or night out?
That's even easier. It's early riser every time.
I know you've gone on this journey, and just from us talking here in the last 30, 40 minutes, it's quite a journey. Like, why was it that you transferred into physio out of science? Like, what was that thing that made you sort of switch over?
So the reason I switched, I finished my science degree. You know, I actually don't remember the moment that I chose to study science. Like, I really can't pinpoint the reason why. Like, I didn't do any science subjects in VCE, or, you know, that's the equivalent of HSC. You know, I did physics and PE, which was enough to get me in, but, you know, I didn't do any bio or chem or anything like that, psych. And so doing a science degree, like, I loved it, don't get me wrong. It was a really sort of bizarre decision to make. I'm not really sure what spurred it. And so I kind of think that for a while there, and probably up until recently, and still a little bit now, I was just kind of floating through. An experience would come up, or, you know, an opportunity would come up, or I'd be kind of forced to make a decision, putting in preferences for uni, and I'd kind of just pick it and just go, all right, let's try that. And looking back at it, look, I don't regret anything, because, yeah, I've had really cool experiences so far, and I love where I am. But I call it the scenic route. I took the scenic route to physio. So that science degree was something I look back on and think, look, it allowed me to do other things like work a lot more and socialise while still, you know, getting a degree, which probably isn't the best way of doing it, but it's the way that I did it. And I guess the moral of the story is, you don't have to get it right the first time. You don't have to get it right the second time. At some point it'll become right. Don't worry about it. Just keep on going and reassessing. So I finished the science degree, and kind of at the time I was working at Woolies. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed some time off. So for a year, I took a gap year, worked my butt off to save heaps. And my partner Leanne and I went to the States for 10 weeks and had such a blast. It was great fun. And kind of throughout that entire time, actually it was in my last year of science that I started to realise I need to figure out what I was actually going to do. I read Becoming by Michelle Obama just recently, and it was right at the beginning of the book, and it's one of the most powerful sentences ever. And it was saying, you know, that phrase or that question is one of the dumbest questions you can ask. What do you want to be when you grow up? as if that's a finite process. One day you're grown up and that's all you become. The idea that, you never finish becoming something and you never finish growing up. You're always just kind of learning and gathering experience and skills along the way. So physio was cool because I was actually speaking to one of the former yTeamers, Sam Sook, who he actually has his own practice now in a suburb in Melbourne. He's a physio, and we had a discussion about how much I love the human body and all the different sorts of interests that I have and how they kind of come together nicely into physio. And so that's another part of how yLead's kind of influenced my journey in my life, which is kind of cool. So that's sort of, I guess it's the way that I found physio was just talking to people. And I think that I really want to encourage young people and older people, whoever it is, just to talk to people about the job that they actually do, how they got there and what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Because I think we only know, maybe 5%, not even, maybe 1% of the jobs that actually exist. I guess the challenges have just been things happening different to what I thought that they would. That's probably been the biggest one. Figuring out what I'm going to do for work while studying was a difficult decision, but it's led to me becoming a personal trainer, and that's turned out so incredibly. Each challenge, zoom out, realize that, it's difficult in this specific moment, but in the context of your life, it's just going to mean a learning point and an opportunity for you to figure something out.
It's fantastic. Exactly it. If someone wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way that someone could get in contact with you, and not via a PlayStation 4 connection?
That was definitely what I was going to say. No, the best way, add me on Facebook or send me a message via that. I'm on Instagram as well. If anyone would love to have a chat, I have the gift of time at the moment in Melbourne, so feel free to reach out. I'm always willing. Personally,
I've learned a lot more about you, and I hope people watching this have learned a lot more about you. But thank you very much, Georgia, for taking the time out of your not so busy schedule at the moment to pencil this in and have this chat with me. I really appreciate it, and thank you very much for your time.
No, I've loved it. Thanks, Mitch.